Hey guys, welcome to Chaos Theory. My name is Nicholas Burial, and today we're gonna look at lighting. Last time we looked at camera, so we have a new camera set up in our scene. We talked a little bit about composition, how you can improve your composition. In this product renderer, it doesn't really matter too much because it's just a product. We want it kind of in the center of a screen. So you just kind of want to try and make some nice lighting for this one view. So the easiest way to go about this is that we already have our camera settings set. We can go to the camera here and see if we're just using default ISO, f number, and shutter speed. So we can just go ahead and start making lights. The easiest way is to use the V-Ray toolbar here and go to V-Ray plane light to create sort of area lights. And I will keep using the different viewports to our benefit to try and get the angles right and just give them a slight angle in this case. So this is our key light. So this is kind of our main light source that's supposed to just view or give us a something to see, and basically in our viewport. So if we can right click in our viewport here and go to V-Ray VFB, and actually before that, just close this down. Let's go to the render setup. And in the render setup, we can lock our view to render to the quad 4 V-Ray cam 001 because I have this, you can see if I change my viewports here, because I have this viewport selected, I can lock that viewport. This means that when I start using the interactive renderer here, so if I start interactive rendering, I can change everything. I can, go to the front view and start moving my cameras, but the view here will stay the same. So we can use this as a reference for what we're doing. So I just kind of get a rough idea of how much light I need. So let's just start turning this up a bit, maybe to something like this. So this is very flat. You can see the gray here gets, it kind of reflects the gray plane at the moment, and it's just it's a flat lighting so that we can see what we're doing basically. But I kind of like starting off with, a bit of a light source that just creates this, these small soft shadows and go on from there basically. So now that we have this, it doesn't really matter too much what our multiplier is. But we'll go to options and choose the light to be invisible, just so that if our light source gets in the view for some reason, you can see here it gets under the camera itself. So if we go to left view, we can see it blocks. We can actually make it invisible and still be able to see through it. It's still visible in reflections, but it's not visible to the camera itself. So that's a huge help. The next we kind of want to do is go to our top view. Sorry, I'll just try and make this a little bit smaller so it's easier to do. Maybe Control L to remove the layers tabs from the VFB. And we could use IPR and so on, but I'm lazy. So let's go to the front view, create maybe a highlight source here, again making it invisible so we can't see it. Move it here in front, maybe angle it a little bit to something like this. Maybe have some focus on the Sonos logo itself. That would be pretty neat, so it lights up a bit. And change it to, I don't know, maybe a bit more so it gets to shine through a little bit. Maybe around 80, something like that. We can use this light as so Sonos light. So I'm naming the lights mostly because I'm planning on using V-Ray Light Mix, and V-Ray Light Mix can help us changing the settings of the lights afterwards. So I'm not too worried about the values. I'm changing them around just to get some rough idea of what I'm getting, and I'm trying to make something interesting with whatever I'm getting basically. So this I kind of don't want to be too harsh, maybe just a little bit lower, and doesn't need to be too high. So I'm using all my viewports and trying to, you know, get an idea of how large do I want the different views to be, and, you know, so on. Can create something like maybe a backlight or sorts here. If I can, it won't let me change the name. It's odd. Right, I'll fix that next time. For now, it's just Sonos Lab 2, which is fine. See what happens here. So gets hit there, so maybe we'll just take it down here. So it's just hitting on the back here, but without hitting too much over here. You can see that it hits way over here in the background. It's not really that much of a problem, I think, but just keep it up here. Maybe move it back further. Just to get an edge, to try and get some, you know, something nicer, probably. We do end up getting quite a few lights here because this is a product render, and when it's a product render, we kind of end up usually with, you know, quite a lot of lights, just to get all the different angles in place. And, you know, we have this, can I rename this? No, of course not. Maybe one more to try and get the top here highlighted a little bit, so we can change our local, the reference coordinate system to local, so I can rotate around this axis and move it upwards to maybe something like this. And yeah, just play a little bit around with it, see how the angles work to our benefit. So you can see that it's kind of hard, but just trying to get a rough idea of what happens and what doesn't. You can see as soon as I turn it on and off, I don't really need to see the too much of the result. I'm just, you know, I'm just roughing it out basically to get a good idea of how this is gonna look. This isn't actually too bad, so I'm pretty happy with this. One of the things that we can do as well, I might change this a little bit and get it further away, just because we're getting these. I don't think they will be too much of a problem later on, but it's fine. All right, so now that we have a decent lighting for the product, we're trying to show that, you know, how shiny is it on the different kinds of surfaces and so on. You know, I'm pretty happy with that so far. I kind of want to change the background here a little bit. So one of the things we can do, there are actually two methods. We can, I want to do a shadow catcher. But you can do that in two different ways. One of the ways is by doing it by material. And I'm a fan of doing it by a material, so I'll create a normal V-Ray material, and then I'll go to V-Ray and do a material wrapper as well. I'm a fan of using materials for this because it's easier to see what's going on. You can do it on object basis as well. So the other, let's just do it this way first, and I can show you how to do it the other way around as well. So I need to connect a normal material that tells the plane how to react to light. So is it reflective or not? Sorry, is it reflective? What's the diffuse color and so on? So what is it reflecting? What kind of color is it reflecting? And then I'm using it on what's called a V-Ray material wrapper. The material wrapper has matted properties, or matte properties. When set to a matte surface, we can actually see here if we go to, as soon as we connect this to the plane itself, and we set it here, this is the default, and as soon as I set it as a matte surface, it's gonna do this, and I can tell it to be effect reflection, refraction, shadow, and effect alpha. I probably don't want to use matte for reflections, mostly because that it will depends on if we want it to be seen or not on our reflections. So you can see the reflections right now of the speaker, sorry, cannot see the plane itself. If I take them on or off, sorry, the reflections will see the material itself, and this affects how light or dark the speaker itself gets. I will try and leave it on for now, or we could leave it off and then go to the material, the base material, and change the diffuse to a much darker diffuse material. Maybe something like this. So we will still get a little bit on the material, on the reflections itself, but not too much so that it gets grayed out totally because of the light material. So maybe something like this. And then the last part here, if we go to in the VFB, we can take the on the switch to alpha channel, and we can see we have a white alpha channel, or mostly white alpha channel. Here's the cool part. If we change the alpha contribution of the material wrapper to -1, so it minuses the alpha off of the plane itself, now we get a alpha channel with the shadows themselves. And that's why our background needs to be black, because otherwise we would color our alpha with whatever our background would be, and we would get pre-multiplied alpha issues if we did that. So basically, now we have a basically a perfect rotoscoped shadow of our object. So that means that if we go into Photoshop or any other image editing software afterwards, we can change the background to whatever we want to, without having to worry about it in the renderer itself. And I can show you guys that in the next video. But before we close off, I just want to show you that if you wanted to do a material wrapper or shadow catcher, not with a material, what we could do instead is go to the object you want to be a shadow catcher, right click and go to V-Ray Properties. In the V-Ray Properties tab, you can tell the object to be a matte object. You can tell it to affect shadows and affect alphas, on the direct light. And you can tell the alpha contribution to go to -1. So this would be the same as doing it as a material wrapper. But it's harder for me or for anyone else to know that I have this property on, because I need to go check the V-Ray properties all the time. So I'm a fan of leaving this for, not doing anything, and then just changing it as the material itself, because you can see that it has this specific material on it. So anyway, that is it from my part. I will see you guys next time, where we will be looking at V-Ray Light Mix and then finishing all of this up. Great. I will see you. Bye.